The hammer of Saul shudders as another salvo of plasma fire slams into our forward shields. I grip the armrests of my command chair, eyes locked on the tactical holotank. The alien dreadnought, a twisted mass of obsidian and molten orange, looms ahead, its hull bristling with emitters that pulse with malevolent light. "Shields at 68%, Captain," Lieutenant Vance reports, her voice strained. "They're focusing fire on our bow." I don't blink. "Helm, hard to port. Bring us broadside." "Gunnery, charge all plasma cannons. We're going to carve a path through that thing." The ship groans as we pivot, the inertial dampeners straining against the brutal maneuver. Outside, the void erupts in silent violence. Our escorts, 3 Valor-class frigates, dart between the enemy's beams, their point defense turrets spitting streams of tungsten slugs that shred a wave of incoming fighters. The main alien fleet hangs in the distance like a wall of thorns, thousands of vessels from corvettes to Leviathan-sized carriers, all advancing with a single, terrible purpose. "Target locked," Gunnery calls out. "Firing solution calculated." I see it in the tank, a weak spot in the dreadnought's armor, a seam where its plating buckled after our last volley. All batteries fire at will. The hammer lurches as every plasma turret on our starboard side unleashes a torrent of superheated fury. The beams lance across the black, striking the alien vessel square on the seam. The armor flashes white, then ruptures in a cascade of molten debris. The dreadnought lists, its internal reactors venting plasma into space, but there's no time to celebrate. "New contact," Sensors shouts. Multiple no, dozens emerging from the debris field. They're smaller, faster. I curse under my breath. Drones. The aliens are using the wreckage as cover. All hands brace for impact. Point defense, target those drones. "Helm, bring us about. We need to regroup with the main fleet." The battle for the outer rim has only just begun. The hammer's hull vibrates as the first wave of drones slams into our defensive grid. Tungsten slugs streak outward in a storm, shredding dozens, but more slip through, their plasma cutters sparking against our armor. Warning klaxons howl across the bridge. I bark orders, my throat raw from the strain. "Redirect auxiliary power to point defense." "Gunnery, prioritize swarm clusters. Don't waste shots on singles." The holotank flickers, showing the swarm splitting into 3 converging arcs. They're trying to encircle us, pin us down while the main fleet closes in. I grit my teeth. "Helm, roll us 90 degrees starboard. Bring dorsal batteries to bear. We'll punch through the densest cluster." The maneuver throws the ship into a violent spin, inertial dampeners groaning under the stress. Outside, the void becomes a kaleidoscope of fire, alien drones weaving in impossible patterns, their hulls glowing with sickly orange light. Our plasma cannons roar, carving luminous scars across the black. Each hit vaporizes a drone, but for every one destroyed, 3 more emerge from the wreckage of their dreadnought. "Shields at 42%, Vance shouts. Sparks rain from a ruptured console, the acrid stench of burning circuits filling the air. I slam my fist against the armrest. "Signal the Valor frigates form up on our flanks. We'll run the gauntlet together." The frigates respond instantly, diving into formation. Their smaller frames dart like predators, unleashing streams of railgun fire that slice through the swarm. The hammer surges forward, its massive bulk plowing through the chaos. The holotank shows a narrow corridor opening ahead, a fleeting chance to break free. Then the alien carriers ignite. From their cavernous maws, waves of interceptors spill forth, sleek and jagged, their engines burning like miniature suns. The swarm doubles, triples, until the void itself seems alive with hostile light. I feel the weight of it, the enormity of the war pressing down on my chest. Humanity's final stand, balanced on the edge of annihilation. My voice cuts through the din, steady despite the terror clawing at my gut. "All batteries, maximum firepower. We hold this line or we die trying." The hammer of Saul answers with fury. Plasma lances, railgun bursts, missile salvos, all unleashed in a single devastating barrage. The void erupts in brilliance, a storm of destruction that shakes the stars themselves. And still the enemy comes, relentless, unending. I grip the chair tighter, eyes locked on the holotank. The battle has only one truth now: survival through fire. The hammer shudders as another barrage slams into our weakened shields, the impact rattling through the hull like the roar of a dying god. My vision blurs for a heartbeat, the bridge lights flickering as power conduits strain against overload. I force my focus back to the holotank. Alien dreadnoughts loom ahead, titanic silhouettes bristling with weapon arrays, their hulls pulsing with malignant energy. They dwarf even our largest warships, monstrosities built for annihilation. Helm, hard burn forward. Keep us moving, don't let them lock firing solutions. My voice cuts through the chaos, and the hammer lurches as engines flare, streaking plasma trails across the void. The frigates on our flanks struggle to match pace, their smaller drives screaming under the strain. One falters, caught in a net of enemy fire. Its hull blossoms into a sphere of molten debris, fragments scattering like dying stars. I grit my teeth, swallowing the grief. No time for mourning, only survival. Enemy interceptors swarm closer, their formations impossibly precise, weaving through our defensive fire like predators scenting blood. Point defense, continuous sweep. Don't let them breach the hull. Automated turrets swivel, unleashing torrents of plasma bolts that carve glowing arcs through the black. Drones disintegrate in bursts of light, but more surge forward, relentless, unending. The holotank paints a nightmare, our corridor narrowing, enemy dreadnoughts closing in from both sides. Valor Squadron break formation, flank left. Draw their fire, give us breathing room. My throat burns as I shout, but the frigates obey, diving into the storm. Their railguns hammer the enemy lines, streaks of kinetic fury that punch holes in the swarm. For a moment the void clears, a fragile gap opening like a wound in the enemy's wall. I seize it. All batteries concentrate fire, target their lead dreadnought, bring it down. The hammer's arsenal roars in unison. Plasma lances spear across the gulf, railgun slugs tear through alien armor, missile salvos streak like vengeful comets. The dreadnought staggers under the onslaught, its hull rupturing in cascades of fire. For a heartbeat, victory feels possible. Then its core ignites, a blinding detonation that hurls shockwaves across the battlefield. The blast rocks us, shields collapsing to a flicker, consoles erupting in sparks. My ears ring, the bridge drowning in alarms. Through the haze I see them, 3 more dreadnoughts sliding into position, their weapons glowing with murderous intent. The swarm thickens, blotting out the stars. My chest tightens, but I force the fear down. Humanity's final stand is here, in this crucible of fire and steel. I lean forward, voice steady, unyielding. We don't retreat, we don't break. We fight until the void itself remembers our fury. Helm, bring us into the storm. The hammer surges forward, battered but defiant, plunging into the heart of the alien armada. The hammer's hull groans as we plunge deeper into the maelstrom, the void alive with streaks of plasma and railgun fire. My hands grip the command console, knuckles white, as the tactical display flickers with red warnings. Enemy dreadnoughts loom ahead, titanic silhouettes bristling with weapons, their shields shimmering like molten glass. Each one is a fortress, a leviathan of war, and they are converging on us with merciless precision. Divert auxiliary power to forward shields. I bark, the words sharp, urgent. The crew scrambles, rerouting energy, and the hammer's barrier flares brighter, absorbing the first salvo of plasma bolts. The impact rattles the decks, a thunderous vibration that shakes the bones. I taste copper, biting down hard as the ship shudders under the assault. The alien warships press closer, their formations flawless, their fire coordinated like a single mind bent on our destruction. Launch the torpedo spread pattern Delta, my command echoes, and the hammer's bays disgorge a storm of warheads streaking across the gulf like burning meteors. They weave through the chaos, guided by desperate precision, slamming into the nearest dreadnought. Explosions ripple across its hull, tearing open vast wounds, but the beast refuses to die. Its weapons flare again, a barrage of plasma beams slicing through the void, vaporizing 2 of our escorts in blinding bursts. Their deaths carve silence into my chest, but I force the grief down. Rage steadies me. The swarm of interceptors dives, shrieking across our hull, their weapons hammering at weak points. Point defense maximum saturation. Turrets blaze, arcs of plasma sweeping the void, shredding drones in incandescent bursts. Still too many slip through, their claws raking across our armor. The hammer screams, hull plating buckling, alarms shrieking in every tone of despair. My vision blurs, but I hold fast, refusing to yield. Helm, roll us 90 degrees, bring broadside batteries to bear. The hammer twists, a wounded predator turning to strike. Our railguns thunder, slugs tearing through the swarm, while plasma lances spear into the dreadnought's exposed flank. The alien giant staggers, its shields collapsing in a cascade of light. All batteries fire. My voice is raw, but the crew obeys, unleashing everything we have. The dreadnought convulses, its core rupturing in a cataclysmic blaze that consumes half the swarm. The void erupts in fire, fragments scattering like shattered constellations. For a heartbeat, hope flickers. Then the remaining dreadnoughts advance, their weapons glowing with apocalyptic fury. The holotank paints the truth. Our fleet is breaking, ships falling one by one, humanity's line collapsing under the relentless tide. My chest tightens, but I force the fear into steel. We hold the line, I whisper, more to myself than anyone. Then louder, unyielding, bring us into their heart. If we burn with fury. The hammer surges forward, battered, bleeding, but defiant, plunging into the storm of fire and steel. The void roars around us, a crucible of annihilation, and I know this is where humanity's fate will be decided, here, in the clash of warships against the endless dark. The hammer's hull groans as we plunge deeper into the maelstrom, the void alive with streaks of plasma and railgun fire. Alien dreadnoughts loom ahead, titanic silhouettes bristling with weapons that glow like the hearts of dying stars. Their salvos tear through the dark, each beam a scythe that carves apart our dwindling fleet. I watch the holotank as another cruiser disintegrates, its death a silent blossom of fire and debris. The line is thinning, but we drive forward, refusing surrender. Divert power from aft shields, feed the forward batteries. My voice cuts through the chaos, and the crew obeys without hesitation. Energy surges, the hammer's broadside cannons igniting in a storm of fury. Plasma lances streak outward, hammering into the nearest alien vessel. Its shields flare, then buckle, collapsing in a cascade of light. Our railguns follow, slugs punching through its armor, ripping vast chunks free. The dreadnought reels, but it does not fall. Its retaliation is immediate, a torrent of plasma beams that rake across our hull, tearing open decks, venting fire and bodies into the void. The ship screams, but we endure. The swarm presses in, interceptors darting like predators, their claws sparking against our armor. Deploy the flak wall, I command, and the hammer's point defense erupts, a curtain of fire that shreds the swarm into fragments. Yet still they come, endless, relentless, their sacrifice buying time for the dreadnoughts to close. The holotank flickers, painting the truth in cold light, three alien giants converging, their weapons primed to annihilate us. Helm, bring us into knife range. We'll gut them before they gut us. The hammer lurches forward, engines screaming, every plate trembling under the strain. We dive into the storm, weaving through the barrage, our guns blazing in every direction. The void becomes a furnace, plasma fire and rail slugs crossing in incandescent fury. One dreadnought looms ahead, its core glowing with apocalyptic power. I lock eyes on it, every nerve burning with defiance. All batteries converge fire, tear it apart. The hammer unleashes everything, a storm of plasma, rail slugs and torpedoes streaking into the beast's heart. Explosions ripple across its hull, tearing it open, fire spilling into the void. Its death cry is a cataclysm, shockwaves battering us, fragments scattering like shattered moons. For a moment the swarm falters, stunned by the loss of their titan. But the remaining dreadnoughts surge forward, their fury doubled, their weapons blazing with unstoppable wrath. The holotank shows our fleet collapsing, ships breaking apart, humanity's line reduced to embers. My chest tightens, but I force the fear into steel. We hold, I whisper, my voice raw, my hands steady on the command throne. We hold, or we die with fire in our veins. The hammer roars into the storm, battered, bleeding, but unbroken, plunging into the heart of annihilation. The void trembles with the clash of warships, and I know this is humanity's final stand, our fury against the endless dark. The hammer shudders as another barrage slams into our flank, the hull groaning under the strain. Sparks rain across the bridge, consoles flickering, but my crew holds fast. The void outside is a maelstrom, alien dreadnoughts unleashing beams that carve through the dark like blades of molten light. Our escorts are burning, frigates torn apart in blossoms of fire, their wreckage drifting as silent tombs. Yet the line does not break. Not yet. Rotate the starboard batteries, lock onto the lead dreadnought, I bark, my voice cutting through the chaos. The gunners respond instantly, plasma lances swiveling, railguns charging. The hammer pivots, engines screaming, and we unleash another storm. The barrage slams into the enemy's forward shields, tearing them open in a cascade of brilliance. Armor ruptures, fragments spinning into the abyss. But the beast endures, its retaliation a spear of energy that rips across our decks, vaporizing entire sections in a heartbeat. The ship howls, but I refuse to yield. Interceptor wings streak past, their trails weaving through the carnage. Alien craft dive at us, claws sparking against our hull, detonating in suicidal fury. Our flak wall erupts again, shredding them into burning fragments, but the swarm is endless. Every kill buys us seconds, nothing more. The holotank pulses, painting the truth in merciless clarity. The dreadnoughts are closing, their weapons aligning for the kill. Helm, bring us into the gap. We'll split their formation. The hammer surges forward, engines flaring, cutting through the storm. We dive between the giants, their fire converging, plasma beams crossing in incandescent fury. The void becomes a crucible, every second a battle against annihilation. Our guns blaze, torpedoes streaking into the heart of the enemy line. One dreadnought reels, its hull erupting in fire, but the others press in, their wrath unrelenting. The fleet is collapsing around us, ships breaking apart, humanity's line reduced to scattered embers. My chest tightens, but I force the fear into steel. We hold, I whisper again, my voice raw, my hands steady on the command throne. We hold or we burn the stars with us. The hammer roars, battered and bleeding, plunging deeper into the storm. The clash of warships shakes the void itself, and I know, this is the edge of extinction, humanity's fury against the endless dark. The hammer's hull vibrates like a living beast under the pounding of alien fire, every impact threatening to tear us apart. My knuckles whiten on the command throne as I force the ship into a brutal roll, dragging our battered frame clear of a beam that would have split us in two. The void is alive with fury, colossal dreadnoughts trading blows, their silhouettes blotting out the stars, their weapons vomiting oceans of plasma that ripple across the battlefield in waves of annihilation. Port batteries, fire at will. My voice is hoarse, but the gunners obey, unleashing a torrent of railgun slugs and plasma bursts. The rounds streak into the abyss, hammering into the alien cruiser that dares to flank us. Its shields flare, then collapse in a cascade of sparks, and our torpedoes punch through, detonating deep inside its core. The explosion blossoms like a miniature sun, fragments scattering across the void, but the victory is fleeting. Another Leviathan slides into its place, weapons already primed, its silhouette blotting out the wreckage of its fallen kin. The holotank screams warnings, enemy formations tightening, their dreadnoughts weaving into a kill net. They're hurting us, driving the fleet into a choke point where their fire will converge. I grit my teeth, forcing the hammer forward, engines burning hotter than safety allows. Break the net, I order, every syllable a gamble. Punch through before they close. The hammer surges, our escorts rallying to our side, frigates and destroyers throwing themselves into the storm. Plasma beams rake across their hulls, tearing them apart, but their sacrifice buys us seconds. Seconds we need. We dive into the gap, guns blazing, torpedoes streaking like spears of vengeance. The alien line falters, one dreadnought crippled, another forced to veer off course, its weapons silenced in a storm of fire. But the swarm is endless. Fighters pour from their carriers, a tide of shrieking death. They slam into our flak wall, detonating in suicidal fury, each blast shaking the hammer to its core. My vision blurs with smoke and sparks, but I refuse to yield. "Keep firing," I roar, the words tearing from my throat. "We hold this line or we die with it." The void becomes a furnace, every second a battle against extinction. Warships clash, titans burn, and humanity's fleet bleeds into the abyss. Yet the hammer drives on, battered but unbroken, plunging deeper into the storm. And in that crucible of fire and fury, I know this is not just survival. This is defiance. This is humanity's final stand. The hammer shudders as another plasma lance grazes our starboard hull, the impact rippling through the decks like a quake. Warning klaxons howl, but I force myself to stay locked on the holotank, watching the chaos unfold. Alien dreadnoughts loom ahead, their hulls bristling with weapons that spit fire into the void. Each salvo is a tidal wave of destruction, tearing through our formation, scattering frigates like leaves in a storm. Helm hard pitched down. I bark and the hammer dives, engines screaming as we cut beneath the enemy barrage. Our dorsal batteries open fire, spewing molten plasma into the underbelly of a cruiser that thought it had us pinned. Blast rips through its armor, venting atmosphere and bodies into the abyss. For a heartbeat, the stars are lit by its death, but the swarm presses closer, relentless. Fighters streak past, their trails weaving like fireflies, but each one carries death. They swarm our escorts, overwhelming point defense turrets, detonating against hulls in suicidal fury. A destroyer to port vanishes in a blossom of fire, its crew's final screams lost in static. My throat tightens, but I force the words out. "Launch interceptors, clear the skies or we're finished." The hammer's bays disgorge our squadrons, sleek interceptors tearing into the tide. Dogfights erupt in every direction, tracer fire carving luminous scars across the void. I catch glimpses of pilots pushing their craft beyond limits, diving into alien formations, sacrificing themselves to buy us seconds. Seconds we cannot waste. The dreadnoughts shift, their formation tightening again, weaving into a wall of steel and fire. Their beams converge, slicing through the fleet, forcing us into the choke point. I slam a fist against the armrest, fury boiling. All batteries maximum firepower. Target their lead ship, break the wall. The hammer roars, every gun unleashing hell. Railgun slugs hammer into the alien flagship, plasma bursts searing its shields until they collapse in a cascade of light. Torpedoes streak forward, punching into its core. The explosion is cataclysmic, a sun born in the void, shockwaves rippling across the battlefield. The wall falters, dreadnoughts scattering to avoid the blast. For a moment, hope flickers. The fleet surges, ships rallying behind us, driving into the breach. But the swarm is endless. More carriers emerge from the dark, vomiting fresh waves of fighters, their silhouettes blotting out the stars. My chest tightens as I realize the truth. This battle is not about victory. It is about endurance. I grip the command throne, voice raw but unyielding. We hold the line, no retreat. Humanity stands here or humanity falls. The void answers with fire. The hammer shudders as another wave of plasma fire rakes across the hammer shudders as another barrage slams into our shields, the impact rattling through the hull like the fists of gods. Warning klaxons scream, red lights bathing the bridge in a hellish glow. I taste iron in the air, the tang of recycled atmosphere mixed with fear. "Reinforce forward shields," I shout, my voice cutting through the chaos. The crew obeys, hands flying across consoles, diverting power from engines to keep us alive for another minute. Through the viewport, the void is alive with fire. Alien dreadnoughts loom like mountains, their hulls bristling with weapons that spit beams of annihilation. Each strike carves through our fleet, tearing ships apart, scattering debris across the stars. I watch a cruiser ahead of us split in two, its core detonating in a burst that blinds sensors. The wreckage spins, colliding with a frigate that had no chance to evade. Two ships gone in seconds. My jaw clenches, fury burning hotter than fear. "Helm, bring us about 30 degrees starboard. Line up the spinal cannon." The hammer groans as thrusters fire, dragging our massive bulk into position. The alien dreadnought ahead looms larger, its weapons locking onto us. I feel the tension coil in my chest the moment before release. Fire! The spinal cannon erupts, a lance of plasma tearing through the void, slamming into the enemy's forward batteries. Armor melts, shields collapse, and the dreadnought reels, its flank exposed. Our escort seize the chance, torpedoes streaking in, detonating against its hull. The beast shudders, then explodes, fragments scattering like shattered glass. But victory is fleeting. More carriers emerge from the dark, their bays vomiting endless waves of fighters. The swarm thickens, blotting out the stars, their trails weaving into a storm of death. Our interceptors dive into the chaos, dogfights erupting in every direction. I catch glimpses of pilots pushing their craft beyond limits, streaking into alien formation, sacrificing themselves to buy us seconds. Seconds we cannot waste. Signal the fleet, I rasp, throat raw. Form up on the hammer, tight wedge formation. We punch through or we die here. The comms officer relays the command and battered ships rally, engines flaring as they close ranks. Together we drive into the storm, guns blazing, shields overlapping. The void becomes a furnace, plasma fire and railgun slugs carving luminous scars across the dark. Every heartbeat is a gamble, every breath a defiance. The swarm presses closer, relentless, but we do not yield. I grip the command throne, knuckles white, eyes locked on the chaos ahead. Humanity's final stand is written in fire, and I will see it through. The hammer shudders as a stray plasma bolt grazes the port shields, searing a glowing scar across the armored plating and sending a jolt up through the command throne into my spine. The acrid bite of ozone cuts through the recycled air, sharp enough to make my eyes water, and the damage klaxons blare so loud I have to lean forward to hear the tactical officer over the noise. "Port shield generator down to 68%, she shouts, fingers flying across her console, rerouting power as more impacts hammer our hull. Hull breach on C-deck, engineering teams are sealing it now. Through the polarized viewport, the void is a cacophony of light and violence. The frigate that had been holding position off our port bow disappears in a flash of white so bright it bleaches the stars from the sky for a split second, its forward magazine detonating under a full barrage of alien railgun fire. The shockwave rolls outward, slamming into our port shields and crumpling them like tin foil for half a second before the generators kick back in, screaming under the strain. Wreckage spins past the viewport, twisted hull plates, fragments of armor, a single pressure-suited body drifting end over end before a stray plasma bolt incinerates it. "Helm, adjust wedge formation, close the gap with the Tempest, we need overlapping ventral shields," I bark, my throat raw from shouting over the alarms. The hammer's thrusters fire, our massive dreadnought bulk sliding into position just as a wave of alien fighters breaks through the interceptor screen, their plasma cannons spitting streaks of neon green toward our unshielded stern. Point defense batteries spin up, trailing rivers of tungsten flak that pick off 3 of the attackers before the 4th slams into our aft shield, sending sparks cascading across the bridge ceiling. "Forward ventral shields at 44%, the shield officer yells. "We can't take much more of this." I grip the arms of the command throne so hard my knuckles crack, eyes locked on the tactical display. The main alien swarm is thicker than ever, thousands of small craft weaving between the hulks of our fallen ships, and 3 new Leviathan-class dreadnoughts have broken through the front line, their spinal lances charging up, the blue glow of their capacitors bright enough to cast faint light across our own bridge. Comms, signal the entire fleet. Every available torpedo tube, target the lead Leviathan's ventral shield generator. Interceptors, clear a firing path for our spinal cannon. I don't care how many of you have to die to do it. The comms officer relays the order, and I watch on the display as our remaining destroyers vector in low, skimming the edge of the debris field to avoid the Leviathan's forward batteries, their torpedo tubes popping open in unison. The Leviathan's spinal lance finishes charging, and it fires. The plasma bolt screams across the void, fast enough to leave a trail of ionized gas in its wake, and I yank the helm hard to starboard just as it slams into the destroyer Daedalus amidships. The ship implodes first, then erupts, its wreckage spinning into a pair of corvettes that had been holding the line on our starboard flank, taking all three out in a chain reaction that lights up half the sector. "Fire torpedoes!" I roar. 50 warheads streak across the void, slamming into the Leviathan's ventral plating in a ripple of explosions. Its shields flare bright white, then collapse entirely, exposing the glowing purple command spire at its core. Spinal cannon, charge and fire. The hammer's main lance erupts, a torrent of superheated plasma so bright it makes me squint even behind the viewport's filters. It slams dead center into the spire, and the Leviathan convulses, its weapons going dark, before it drifts slowly into the debris field, a hulking tomb. But there's no time to celebrate. A massive alien carrier disengages from the main swarm, its hangar bays opening up not for fighters but for heavy bombers, each one big enough to carry a payload capable of leveling a dreadnought. All-point defense batteries shift fire to those bombers. No misses. The void lights up with flak bursts, explosions blooming like angry orange flowers across the dark, but two of the bombers slip through the barrage, their plasma charges slamming into the Tempest's forward hull. The Tempest's core detonates a second later, the blast so strong it rocks the hammer hard enough to throw half the bridge crew to their knees. Red emergency lights strobe and the damage klaxons reach a fever pitch. "Shield status," I yell, hauling myself upright. "All forward shields down to 22%, the shield officer shouts, her voice tight with panic. "Hull breach on B-deck, we're venting atmosphere." I glance at the tactical display. Our wedge formation is half gone, only 8 ships left circling the hammer, and the alien carriers are pouring more and more fighters and bombers into the fray. In the distance, the purple warp rift they emerged from is still spitting out more Leviathans, more carriers, more endless waves of ships. We can't hold forever. Then a faint blip appears on the long-range comms display, human IFF. I lean forward, my heart skipping a beat. "Comms, what's that signal?" She taps her console rapidly, her eyes widening. "Admiral, it's the 7th Fleet. They broke through the blockade at Proxima Centauri. ETA 4 minutes, 30 seconds. A roar goes up from the bridge crew, even as another plasma bolt slams into our port shields, buckling them further. I grip the command throne, letting the surge of relief fight back the exhaustion clinging to the edges of my mind. 4.5 minutes. We just have to hold for 4.5 minutes. "All hands hear me," I shout, my voice cutting through the chaos, loud enough to carry over the klaxons and the rattle of the hull under bombardment. "Reinforcements are less than 5 minutes out. We hold this line. We don't let a single alien ship get past us to the inner colonies. We hold for the people back on Earth, for every kid who ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of flying. We hold or we die trying. There is no in-between." The crew roars, even as a stray plasma burst singes the edge of the viewport, and I turn back to the tactical display, watching the alien swarm press closer. The hammer groans under another impact, but I don't look away. We hold. We have to. The hammer shudders again, the hull screaming as another plasma lance rakes across our flank. Sparks shower from the ceiling, the acrid stench of burning circuitry filling the bridge. I slam my fist against the armrest, forcing my voice steady. "Helm, roll us 30 degrees starboard, bring the dorsal batteries to bear." The ship lurches, the stars wheeling in the viewport as our massive frame pivots, and the dorsal turrets unleash a storm of kinetic slugs that rip through the alien fighter screen like a buzzsaw. The tactical display flickers, showing the swarm tightening around us. Their carriers hang back, vomiting endless waves of bombers, while their Leviathans push forward, massive silhouettes blotting out the stars. One of them, a beast twice the hammer's size, begins charging its spinal plasma cannon, the glow building like a miniature sun. My throat tightens. If that shot lands, we're finished. "Target that Leviathan. All ships concentrate fire," I bark, and the surviving warships pivot, their beams and railguns converging in a furious barrage. The Leviathan's shields flare, rippling under the assault, but they hold. Then the alien cannon fires. A blinding spear of plasma cuts through the void, slamming into one of our escorts. The cruiser disintegrates instantly, fragments scattering like embers in the dark. The crew gasps, but I force my voice to rise above the horror. Stay on it. We break that monster or it breaks us. The hammer's main batteries roar, the recoil rattling the deck, and at last the Leviathan's shields collapse. Our combined fire tears into its hull, ripping open vast gashes until its core detonates in a cataclysmic burst that lights the void brighter than a sunrise. The bridge erupts in cheers, but I know it's only one victory in a sea of battles. The timer on the comms display ticks down, 2 minutes, 40 seconds until the 7th Fleet arrives. Every second feels like an eternity. Another wave of bombers streaks toward us, their engines glowing like vengeful stars. Point defense, maximum saturation, don't let them through. The hammer's flak cannons thunder, filling the void with a storm of fire, shredding half the bombers before they can close. The survivors dive in, plasma torpedoes streaking toward us. I grit my teeth as the impacts hammer our shields, the deck trembling under the strain. Shields at 12%. Hull integrity failing on deck C through F. The officer cries. I lock eyes with her, my voice low but firm. We hold. Even if the hull tears apart, even if the stars themselves fall, we hold. The words steady her, steady all of us, and the crew throws themselves back into the fight. The hammer groans, bleeding atmosphere into the void, but still our guns blaze. Still we fight. And as the countdown ticks toward 0, I see the first glimmers of warp signatures on the edge of the display. Human ships, dozens of them, tearing through the rift like avenging angels. The 7th Fleet is here. Relief surges through me, fierce and unyielding, but I don't let it soften my tone. All ships rally to the fleet. Push them back into the abyss. The void erupts in fire as humanity's final stand becomes humanity's counterstrike. The hammer shudders as the fleet's arrival tears the void apart, warp wakes cascading like tidal waves across the stars. The newcomers waste no time. Battle cruisers unleash broadsides of particle lances, carriers disgorge swarms of interceptors, and dreadnoughts pivot their colossal hulls to bring spinal cannons to bear. The alien armada reels, but they do not break. Their warships surge forward, formations shifting with unnerving precision, as if guided by a single mind. I grip the command rail, eyes locked on the tactical display. The hammer is battered, shields flickering, hull scarred, but we're still in the fight. Align with the 7th Fleet spearhead. We'll drive straight through their center. My words are met with frantic acknowledgments, and the ship lurches as thrusters fire, dragging our wounded bulk into formation. Around us, human warships weave in deadly arcs, their coordinated strikes carving through alien lines. Plasma bolts and rail slugs crisscross the void, a storm of firepower that makes the stars themselves seem dim. An alien dreadnought looms ahead, its hull bristling with spines that glow with lethal energy. I know its kind, shield harmonics tuned to deflect conventional fire. Switch to staggered pulse sequence, overload its defenses. The hammer's batteries adjust, firing in carefully timed bursts. The dreadnought's shields ripple, falter, then collapse under the synchronized assault. Our railguns punch through its armor, detonating its reactor in a flare that blinds sensors for a heartbeat. But the victory is short-lived. A swarm of alien frigates darts in, their plasma cutters slicing into one of our destroyers. The vessel splits apart, its crew lost in the silent inferno. Rage burns in my chest, but I force it down, channeling it into command. Interceptor wings cut those frigates off. Hammer, bring the spinal cannon online, target their carrier. The deck vibrates as power surges into the weapon, the glow building until it feels like the ship itself is about to ignite. Then the cannon fires, a beam of annihilation that spears the alien carrier, tearing it open from bow to stern. The battlefield convulses with destruction, human and alien ships locked in a dance of death. Hulls rupture, shields collapse, reactors detonate, each explosion a brief, terrible sun. My voice is hoarse, but I keep shouting orders, driving the hammer and the fleet forward. Every second we hold, every alien ship we break, is another chance for humanity to survive. and though the void is filled with fire and ruin, I feel it. The tide is shifting. For the first time in this endless war, the abyss itself seems to recoil.